So my name is Dominic Orr, and I am the International Project Coordinator from EUROSTUDENT. And we've been here in Copenhagen because we've been doing the final conference for the fourth round of EUROSTUDENT. EUROSTUDENT is coordinated by an international consortium, but it's actually, we lead the consortium, and we are a public research organisation based in Germany, in Hanover, and so in a certain way that's also the centre of the project. This is also to do with the fact that Germany has considered it very important to look at the social dimension in an international comparison over the last 10 or 15 years, and so has been a big supporter of this project. EUROSTUDENT, I think, is unique for two reasons. The first one is because we're looking at the big reforms that are happening in higher education in Europe at the moment, but we're looking at them from a student's perspective. There's a lot of information and comparison reports, etc., which are looking at the reform processes, but very often they don't really see how that's affecting the students, or the differences which one can see in the way structures are being used also by students. And so this is something that we can do with the EUROSTUDENT project. The second thing which makes the EUROSTUDENT project unique, I think, is we are a network of researchers and policymakers. So it means that whenever we look at any of these issues on the social dimension in comparison, we're always trying to think of how best to research it, but also how best to use it in a policy context. What was really the best part of the conference, I think, was to have the opportunity to discuss the results already with experts throughout Europe who've been involved firstly in the data collection and the organisation of the surveys, but who can now tell us a bit more about what is particularly interesting or relevant from their perspective. So it's been very nice for everyone to come together and start discussing what the results we've got really mean, because in the report, to a large extent, they're just numbers. I think what we found most interesting in the report is something we noticed recently at one of the other conferences we had in Ankara, and I think since then it's been confirmed, and that is that there is actually very little knowledge of what other countries are doing in terms of higher education reforms. A good example from this neighbourhood actually is the fact that here in Denmark there's a big issue of looking at the transition routes of students between school and university, and in fact we discovered today that the same issue is being looked at in Sweden. And these kind of people coming together and also the data being seen in a comparative perspective really helps those kind of debates. I think the other thing is, what you can in general see is that countries which are very good at lifelong learning and have very flexible systems of studying are now very interested in trying to find ways of encouraging students to go through, for students to take a more direct route through higher education. And then we have other higher education systems where students tend to take a more direct route, and those higher education systems are trying to think about more flexibility and how to get older students into higher education. So this is why this kind of comparative network can really be helpful. It's always interesting to think about whether the results that we have in EUROSTUDENT are actually used in policy contexts, whether people read the report or whether they actually use it for something. And we're often asked, what is the impact of EUROSTUDENT? And one very clear example of an impact that EUROSTUDENT has had already is in Germany. We are now looking at alternative routes into higher education, and particularly trying to find new ways of getting older students into higher education, because this has been a discussion in Germany for a long time, but